I'm back with another edition of Mark's Just Watching. This time with my review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Here he is, my friend, Doctor Strange. To help me do this review, and he is here for you, Zapipu. Isn't it good? Anywho, yes, I am here to do my spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't watched it, please come back, as I don't want to ruin anything for you. So this is just essentially my observations or rants and an overall review of this movie starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Elizabeth Olsen, directed by Sam Raimi, who is known for the original Spider-Man trilogy in the 2000s, along with the Evil Dead series and several other movies, including one of my favorites, Darkman, a not as known horror movie from 1990. But yeah, so this is a sequel to Doctor Strange that's 6 years in the making. However, both characters have been all over the Marvel universe, as you may know if you follow the Marvel movies consistently. However, I will go ahead and say before I do my review that if you haven't been there's been a question that I've had, like what happens if you can't afford a Disney Plus subscription or don't have one, or you can't watch these Marvel shows? How tied into the movies will they become? Turns out very. So even though they kind of give you a brief idea of what's going on with Wanda, aka Scarlet Witch, if you haven't watched that series, you're gonna be, it's not gonna make sense, because there's a huge gap between when she was last seen at Endgame versus now. And so Disney and Marvel aren't playing around when it comes to those series. But anyway, I thought it was a great movie based on what my initial reaction was, as far as how they were able to introduce the horror element and the storyline that they did in this movie. I was shocked. Is the minute they fought that octopus squid thingy in New York during the wedding, and when it killed it with its eye, I was like, and then I had at least 3 jump scares, all usually tied in with Elizabeth Olsen. But yeah, there's just so much to think about and take in. I was surprised that it was only 2 hours, given the nature of the headlines over the past few years when it came to the making of this movie. Now, granted, I know COVID got in the way, and this movie was actually supposed to come out before Spider-Man, the last Spider-Man, Far From Home. So they had to do some retooling when they reshuffled the movies, which was apparent to me when they had a sit-down conversation in a restaurant with America Chavez, and they were just kind of giving a quick update on what they knew about the multiverse, and they tied it in with Spider-Man. That just seemed like to kind of tie in with the timeline of the movies. But I would have been curious to see what would have happened if this came out first. But with that said, I thought that it was a good movie. But I do think keeping it at 2 hours made it feel more rushed towards the end. It seemed like everything happened boom, boom, boom. As soon as the Illuminati scene hit, and then just the revelation with with Scarlet Witch and what happened to her, which I can't be the only one that hopes that that's not the end of her, because it felt anticlimactic. And I know that her storyline has probably run its course, given how she started in Age of Ultron and how much she has lost. And I know that redemption's probably not something, but I do feel that with all of the characters that so far have come and gone since Endgame, it's too soon to lose a character of her caliber. They're relying heavily on these Disney Plus shows, which is great. I'm not into all of them, and I hate to lose yet another character that I've grown to love during the initial Marvel series, which it's hard to believe it's 10 years now since the first Avengers came out. Just keep looking at Doctor Strange. Yeah. But yeah, Doctor Strange, Benedict has gone on record by saying he doesn't plan on going anywhere. He'll make Marvel movies for at least the next decade as long as Marvel wants him. But obviously, there's a lot of unknowns with Elizabeth. I personally feel like she'll have to be back, or she will be back. But time will have to tell in what capacity and where. I mentioned the Illuminati, so I'll go ahead and talk about that. I felt that the trailers spoiled, in hindsight, the trailers spoiled too much. Xavier was spoiled, which I understood was to build up excitement and leave wonder who else would be. But then there was also another trailer that spoiled Captain Carter. And I was surprised with the Black Bolt. And then also I was hoping for Fantastic Four, but I was very surprised when John Krasinski showed up as Reed Richards. Gave hope to hopefully the future. I really hope this wasn't just fandom casting and he's a one and done character. But how exciting was it to finally have a Marvel movie that in a way featured the Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men representation. I forget who the Inhumans, was that Black Bolt? But in a way, had all of them brought together. I thought that was really cool. With that said, the shock and awe factor of how they were all quickly killed off. I didn't expect it, but I understood it because, again, they were all part of the multiverse, and where they were part of another verse. What was it, 838 compared to our 616 for this universe? So I'm not surprised, even though I was really hoping that they found a way to keep Captain Carter, because I love Haley Atwell, and I thought that would have been cool to have her still around, even though I know Sam Wilson, based on the TV show again, spoiler alert, if he is the new Captain America. But the fight between Scarlet Witch and all of those characters, wow. When Black Bolt blew his head apart, or not apart, but up, essentially, and what happened to poor Reed Richards. I did love the moment with Captain Carter, where I can do this all day. That was a touching, and then all of a sudden, whoops, she lost, cut in half. And then poor Xavier, poor Patrick Stewart, and I gotta wonder why he keeps coming back, only to keep getting killed off. I thought that might happen, but again, was this Xavier part of the other universe of X-Men that was already in existence? Like, is that considered 838 now? Like, or is this a different version of Xavier that found yet another way to die? Who gave a glimmer of hope when he reached out and actually found Wanda buried, which essentially when I don't want to get ahead, but then of course immediately died. And I remember there was, which I'll get to the rumors about all the cameos in a minute, but so the Illuminati was a cool scene, even though, of course, unfortunately they're not around, but it gives you an idea of where Marvel could go in the future. Plus, that universe is still around, so what happens when all their teammates find out about what happened? So did this kind of like create waves in the multiverse, or not multiverse, that universe, so to speak? So that'll be interesting to find out. As far as the cameos, the reason I was curious how this movie was going to turn out because every headline and everything that I kept reading was about the potential storylines, the potential cameos at this movie. There was going to be so many cameos. It was going to tie in everything that's come before in the Marvel universe, to bring it all to one cohesive unit, and none of that happened. Toby didn't show back up as Spidey, which there was an article that Toby didn't want to reveal too much about his backstory in Far From Home because he wanted to save that for a potential spot down the road, which everybody thought this would have been perfect with Sam Raimi. And since Sony can't get their universe together with Venom in that stupid Morbius movie, will Toby and Andrew show up again? I thought that was wasted. There was an article, will Ben Affleck show up as Daredevil? Chris Evans was supposed to show up as the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four double back movie in the 2000s. There was trying to get Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and introduce the new Wolverine. And the biggest one, of course, being Tom Cruise, which in watching this movie, it made sense that he would have showed up as the member of the Illuminati. When that didn't happen, I'm curious when they pursued the other, was it Black Bolt or Reed Richards? So yeah, there was so many, and then of course all these heroes were going to be introduced, and maybe this big Avenger Endgame type fight at the end against the Scarlet Witch, and this movie was so far from that. And it was supposed to be the multiverse of madness, but in reality, outside of going through some pretty cool universes, but they just flew through them and ended up in one. So really, this was just about two different universes. So I just kind of feel the story, I'm kind of curious how much the story deviated with the shuffling of the movies and the order they were going to be released. And the Loki TV series, oh yeah, he was supposed to show up, Loki, as Hiddleston, Tom Hiddleston's Loki, after what happened when his show in season 1 of Loki, again on Disney Plus, that introduced the multiverse. So I'm very curious how the storyline deviated and why it ended up where it did. The cameos were cool, but really in essence all you did was have different versions of the characters outside of the Illuminati cameos. And that was really it. So, but with that said, as far as the performances of my friend here and Elizabeth, wow. Especially my favorite had to have been Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, because she nailed the horror factor, even though I was shocked at how quickly they introduced it in the movie. Watching the trailer, it seems like he visits her on this farm, and it turns out that's all fake, and then boom, you cut to bad guy Scarlet Witch for the rest of the movie. And boy, if that wasn't intense, with the way they found to make the kills in the PG-13 movie, just wow. I was also expecting maybe not all of the characters, like the Sorcerer Supreme Wong. I didn't think he would survive, even though I'm glad he did because I like his character. But there was another speculation that he wouldn't survive. Which I didn't think when he went off that cliff, that'd be the end of him, even though, again, I was like, man, if that's it, that's another anticlimactic. But again, he survived for another day. And then Elizabeth Olsen had to have one of the most touching performances, even though I knew why she was doing it and trying to find those kids. Just watching her story arc, you can kind of understand why she went off the deep end, and wanted the people in the family that she thought were hers, but really weren't. Just really well done, and that's why, again, I'm hoping that Wanda isn't done with this universe, and they find a way to bring her character back, not a multiverse version. And then leading into the end credits, all the different versions of Doctor Strange, including when he fought himself. And then you find out at the very end, before they go to the credits, that he's got the little third eyeball thingy. So there's the potential that he may turn bad in the 616 universe. I don't know how I felt about that. Maybe you guys can tell me. And then, of course, when Charlize Theron showed up and with her cameo as the Clea, I believe her character name is, as another sorcerer who's tied in with the main villain from the first movie, Morgan. I'm going to butcher the name, but looking upon the research, I find there could be a potential storylines for where they take her character. So I'm going to be curious what happens with her. But it also does seem like they gave closure to Rachel Adams, who I thought did also really good with the 838 version, but gave closure to his feelings for her. So by introducing Charlize Theron, was that the new love interest for him? I'll be curious what happens with that. Even though I'm a Rachel McAdams fan, I could understand giving her closure. She's married now in the 616. He's basically resolved his feelings for her, knowing that they can never be together. As long as he's this hero. So I am a Charlize Theron fan. So I am very curious to see what happens with her. So yeah, overall, I did like this movie. Again, I thought 2 hours was quick. I could have seen where they could have stretched it out, another 20, 30 minutes, and I would have been happy. I don't think that they gave a lot of credit, spent a lot of time in the multiverse, so to speak. I wish they would have done that more, but I do think for what this movie was and Sam Raimi, giving him a horror movie, he did a great job about bringing that into this Doctor Strange movie. So well done on that aspect. I am going to see it again. This is definitely one of those movies where you take it all in and then you watch it another few times. Is it my favorite? I definitely like this over the first Doctor Strange because I think he works better. I've enjoyed him in every appearance since the first one, and I think it's because I enjoy him as more of the ensemble, interacting with other characters versus his own story. So I preferred this movie over the first one, but I do wish this movie was stronger, and I'm curious what the original intentions were for the movie versus where it ended up. But again, I don't hate the movie. I do like it. Out of Frosties, I would probably give this out of 5 Frosties. Right now, I'd give it a 3.5. So it's not like one of the more fantastic, but it is better than average. So yeah, I'm excited to see where his storyline goes. I'm excited to see. Before I wrap it up, America Chavez, when they introduced her, I liked her character. She made me laugh. She had a good, as the kid, she had a good connection with Doctor Strange and the trust factor that they built up. I was glad to see that they had her training for the future. And the element of, are you happy with Doctor Strange? I'm going to be curious to see where they go with that for the happiness elements, to find his happiness. So that was a huge weight over the movie too, for are you happy, and trying to find amongst all the different characters and what makes Doctor Strange happy, because he has had to sacrifice a lot since the first movie with where he started and with versus where he's at. So him and Scarlet Witch had similar storylines as far as what they've sacrificed to where they are, but they different approaches as far as where they're going to get their happiness. Even though now Doctor Strange, because of what he went through in this movie, may be heading down a similar path. So we'll see. So again, 3.5 Frosties out of 5 on this one. Tell me what you think. Did you watch the movie? Did you like it? Talk to me about it. Do you want me to see more movies? Send me some money. I have PayPal. I'm here for you, Zapipu. Like, love, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until my next movie review, that's all I've really got to say about this. I hope that you stay well. I hope that you keep enjoying movies like I do. And I'll talk to you in my next review. Until then, talk to you soon. Peace!